Someone said, nobody is trying to fix the problems we have in this country, and instead, everyone is trying to make enough money so that the problems don't apply to them anymore. One thing is evident from this statement. We're trying to separate the root cause of the problem from the problem itself. And I assume it's either because of 1, a lack of understanding, 2, denial, which in itself is a sign of trauma and feeling defenseless. Denial in itself is a defense mechanism that protects us from facing harsh realities. Nevertheless, what if I told you that even making that money depends on fixing the root cause of these problems? Because the same way a CEO can run down a company is the same way a government can run down a country and make it impossible for you to make ends meet. But an entire economy doesn't break down with just one issue, but instead it's a compounding and build-up of bad decisions which end up having ripple effects on everyone. And at that point, your business idea, your talents, and your academic qualifications will barely make you any money because it's just economics. Hi, my name is Susan Wanjiku. I'm the founder of Wanjiku's Eye, and on this platform, I explain the correlation between economic development and governance so that you can understand, engage, and influence the matters that affect you and I. Welcome to Wanjiku's Eye. So first things first, I want to welcome all my new followers and subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're a veteran, you can see we've now invested in production so that your learning experience can be better. And if you're new, just so that you can catch up, I suggest you watch the first series, which is on human rights. Because remember, I keep on saying both economic development and governance revolve around human rights. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to this new series dubbed the Political Economy series, which I must highlight is one of the most important series on this platform because this is where the correlation between economic development and governance becomes clear. Now I know you may be wondering, what's the meaning of political economy? Political economy is basically where the politics and the economics intersect, meaning how the politics affects the economics and how the economics affects the politics. But we can't dive deeper into this before we understand the two. So for this video, I'll focus on what is politics in a nutshell, and I'll also answer a common question on what is economics and how it applies to you. So for the politics, when you think of politics, what comes to your mind? Is it betrayal or hopelessness or lies, fear, lack of trust, that you don't trust the politicians, you don't trust the government? And if that's your perception, I really don't blame you because that's just a psychological byproduct of the political environment you live in. And this perception is very common among us, especially among the young generation, and not just in Kenya. It's a global issue. Because especially having grown up in the age of information, with having so much access to information and being connected through social media, we're able to get information and to judge in real time. So politics is many things, but minus the drama and minus the insults, politics in its most simple form is just leadership and management, period. It's nothing complicated. It's leading and managing a country's financial resources, for example, the taxes, natural resources such as land and minerals, and human resources, which is you and I, the citizens, because we're the ones who work and give the government money. Moreover, this is usually done towards a certain goal like developing a country or making the lives of your people better. But this is where politics usually gets complicated. Can you imagine bringing different people together to run a country? And these people usually have different values, different beliefs, different upbringings, different cultures, different levels of knowledge, because not all of them have knowledge on economics. And can you imagine bringing these people together to decide how a country will be run, how resources will be distributed, and what rules will be in that country? things will definitely get heated because, I mean, even look within your families. It's difficult to decide if everyone will go to church on Sunday. Some people don't want to go to school. Politics is a battle for power, influence, and interest over people, financial resources, natural resources, and most importantly, controlling and managing and circulating information, because information influences how and why we make the choices that we make. But we'll get back to the politics as we proceed. And now to the highlight of this video, the economics. So when economics is discussed, and even when it's taught in schools, it's usually made to sound like some abstract or some complex math, like it's just some abstract concept. But let's start with the definition of an economy. An economy is where interrelated economic activities take place, and highlight interrelated and economic activities. And this can be at a national, community level, or even a global level. So economic activities are the choices we make every single day. The decision to buy Blue Band instead of Prestige, to spend or to save or to invest, to live in Langata instead of Mlolongo, to start a business, to be employed, to be a law-abiding citizen, to vote, to hire or to fire, to take your kids to school, to advance your education. It's literally every single decision that you make. Even marriage itself is an economic decision. Whatever decision you choose to make, you have a good reason as to why you make whatever decision you choose to make. As much as it might not be sensible or right to the rest of us, there's still a reason. Like, let me illustrate something at an individual level. At an individual level, let's take the decision of choosing to be a law-abiding citizen. That is, you don't choose not to commit a crime because you're a very moral person. Just think about it. Most of the time, you choose not to commit a crime because, one, you believe you're a morally upright person, probably bound by religion or culture, or two, the idea of just going to jail or being fined scares you, or three, you just haven't had the opportunity to commit a crime. And if this was a questionnaire or a survey, a majority of the answers would probably fall around option 1 and 2 for people who are employed, meaning they think they're morally upright or they don't want to be fined. Why? Because if you commit that crime, you have a lot to lose. You could lose your job over integrity issues, you could be fined a lot of money, or you could end up being jailed, meaning you lose your freedom. So you look at those costs of committing the crime and you evaluate and you see that the benefits of committing that crime as opposed to the costs are much less. So you choose not to commit the crime. Now, let's switch gears. Think of this. If you're a breadwinner of a family and you have no job or a source of income, what would you be pushed to do? Or worse yet, let's say you become an orphan while you're still a teenager and you have siblings to take care of. What are you going to do? Because for as long as you're alive, you need to survive. And it's even worse if you have other people to take care of. So these are things we don't really think about. So do you imagine what you could be pushed to do to make ends meet? Are you going to become a chicken thief or a petty criminal, or will you choose to become a sex worker? At that particular moment, you're going to have very little to lose. That's why in countries where there is poverty, you'll also see that there's a lot of violent crime. But now I'm sure you get my point. So life and how humans behave can become very complicated, so it's impossible to summarize all those scenarios into one video. But the thing is, you can't take humanity out of human beings. And the truth of the matter is, your circumstances at a certain point in time will influence the choices that you make as a person, like it or not. So that's why we have different fields like development economics, to study such things and to understand human behavior, what choices we make, and how and why we make those choices, and how they impact you, and how they impact the people around you and the country overall. Because none of us exist in a vacuum. We coexist with millions of other people who make decisions which affect you as well. So if someone decides to be a killer, you or someone you know could be the next victim. But again, on the bright side, like Colonel Sanders of KFC, he started his business in 1952 in the US, and over time his business grew and it became a multinational. And you can see decades later, it's become an employer in the Kenyan market. So you see how all these decisions that people make end up impacting others. Now, let's go to how economic activities are interrelated. And I'll use a simple example, one of starting a business. If you decide to start a business, most of the time you're starting it to make a profit, not as a hobby. And depending on the scale of your business, you'll hire people and you're going to pay them. And when you pay these people, ideally they pay taxes to the government. And when you also make a profit as a business, you'll also pay taxes. Subsequently, the government is expected, the word is expected, to use this money for the right purposes, such as providing basic public amenities like healthcare, education systems, water and electricity, good transport networks, infrastructure, and security. But I'll also get back to that because the devil lies in the details. 2, as a business person, when you hire people, would you hire people who are not skilled? I'm guessing you wouldn't, either in terms of academic qualifications or work experience. You need competent workers. So because you need competent workers, you've created a demand for schools, for education, for institutions of learning. So either private citizens or the government can come in and decide to fill in that gap. And obviously, these institutions are not free. And so you've created business in the educational sector. So other people will get into business in the educational sector because of your demand for competent workers. Then teachers will also go to school so that they can be educated on how to teach certain things. The same is for a healthy population. You need food and healthcare systems. You need people to be healthy, to be alive, and to be healthy so that they can be able to work and to sustain themselves. Same to infrastructure. If businesses need quicker ways of communicating, another entrepreneur somewhere has to take the risk to create the internet or create email. So overall, that one activity of someone or several thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people deciding to start a business out of self-interest to make a profit ends up having a ripple effect on the entire country because, one, they're solving a need by providing a good or service, and then they end up creating jobs in their businesses, and also because of demand for other things, they also end up creating businesses in multiple sectors. Then now the economy grows, and now you can see people's lives are impacted, people are now earning money. But let's say you don't have enough money to pay for government licenses required to start that business you want to start. And you have nowhere to borrow money from. Let's say banks refuse, your family members refuse, you don't have savings. Won't you either get discouraged and drop the business idea, or you decide to operate the business illegally? If you choose to operate it illegally, you must be ready to bear the costs if you get caught. But the reality is that very few people are willing to operate a business illegally, because if you get caught, the fines are going to be very heavy and your business will be shut down and you lose your entire investment. And let me ask you a question. Who will employ people if there are no businesses? Or if there are few businesses and these businesses are not growing, just imagine what becomes the impact on other sectors. If potential entrepreneurs are not willing to take the risk to start businesses for whatever reason, who's going to employ people who are not willing to start the businesses? What happens to people and their ability to sustain themselves? Because again, that's another ripple effect. People are not earning, and work enables people to sustain themselves and also to spend on other businesses. And work at the same time gives people self-esteem. So I've touched on self-esteem in human rights a lot. So in this segment, what we've discussed is what's known as microeconomics. Micro meaning decisions at an individual level or firm or company level. And at the end of the day, it usually has an impact on the entire country. So to conclude and to answer the question of this topic, how does economics apply to your life? Economics does not apply to your life. Economics is your life, and the decisions you choose to make every single day, and the thought process that led to us making those choices, and same to what decisions people make and how they affect you in turn. I've not introduced the government yet, but I'll do that gradually in this political economy series. As always, I want you to have a background first so that I don't have to spell everything out for you, so that you can also be following current affairs and you can be able to analyze for yourself. I always insist that background and context are very important when evaluating any aspect of the economy and the decisions. Stick around and it will become clearer why your ability to make money has a direct relationship with the government of the day. It's not a problem that you can just evade, because economic systems are very complicated and have barely scratched the surface. I hope you now have a basic understanding of what economics is, and if you found value in this video, make sure you like and subscribe. In the next video, I'll be covering demand and disposable income, which I know I've been mentioning a lot, so make sure to catch that as well. See you in the next video. Cheers.